Welcome back to Black Clover Anime Review, episode number 70. This is reviewing the 120th episode of the anime, which is called Dawn, and the 238th chapter manga, Zeno's Power. Let's first talk about the newest episode of the anime, Dawn, adapted from chapters 212 to 214. And as of this episode, the reincarnation arc is done. An arc that started back with episode 84. I'll get my final thoughts on this arc basically when I finish talking about this episode. Episode starts off basically exactly where last episode left off. Now there's some minor there's like a couple war changes here, and plus they actually added some lines here which made perfect sense, and they had like a little thing here and a little thing there which I thought was really good. Yep. Episode starts off with the devil, which had been pretty much eviscerated by Asta in the previous episode. Asta's devil makes his appearance in the episode, and it says, "Hello, Chief." Yeah, that's what he calls him in the anime, Chief. In the manga, he referred to him as Elder. It's a minor word change, but it's fine. It's basically how the Funimation does their subbing. Yep. And it says, "Time for you to go." It's like, "Who are you?" That's maybe, yeah, I thought it was somebody coming. Anyways, yeah. And he says, "You need not know that." And, well, that was destroyed. Swell is very happy. Tells Yuno and Asa thank you. And then, something weird happens. The first Wizard King's magic is starting to become undone. Yeah, the statue's slowly being destroyed. And they're about to be eviscerated. Yumi and Charla, which they introduced, Yumi says his name is Charla in this episode. He always says, "Oh look, there's something familiar. Looks not like particularly well." And then we have Vatos use his dimensional magic to basically teleport people, like everybody. Like they have Noelle fall on Asta. Basically, kind of similar to what happened when they first arrived in the Shadow Palace, when they had Mimosa fall on him. Though the thing is, at least that Asa's face wasn't buried in her chest this time like she did with Mimosa. And they actually added a line here which actually was not in the manga, which she actually said something afterwards like, "Noelle, I'm glad you're here." And she says, "Why are you clinging to me, stupid Asta?" Which I thought it was so funny they actually added that line there, which that line is not in the manga. That's anime original. Like, the stuff they added this episode made perfect sense, and how the characters are portrayed in the series. And then it's like, okay, and I think it was Asta who said, "Time to get out of here." In the manga, I think it was Yumi who said that. I don't mind, it makes more sense for Asta to say that than Yumi. So they go out, and they go like, "Oh crap, they almost forgot that the elves are still rampaging the kingdom, despite the fact they've been spending time in the Shadow Palace battling a demon." Yep. Which, by the way, is actually a lot more, let's just say more intense than they have in the manga. And then, basically, Patrick comes in the most ingenious way possible. Ingenious plan. Using William's World Tree magic to undo all of this. And so, Vatos brings somehow William's grimoire. Where the heck it was the whole time was never explained. So, he summons it completely out of nowhere. And they have Asta basically exorcise Patrick from William Vengeance and turns back to normal. And he summons his big world magic tree, which actually is a lot more grand in the anime. Which, thank you, Studio Para, basically, for your team who did this episode. You did a great job with this particular scene because it was spectacular in the manga, and I love it here in the anime. It actually looks really good. And you actually see it's a little bit longer. It's a bit of an extended sequence than it is in the manga. Where in the manga, I think it's like about a few pages. Here, it's like, it takes about 3 minutes of the episode where you see various elves being exorcised from the various people who were possessed by them. Oh, and also, in case you're wondering, did they keep the little moment where at the end of one, I think it was like either 212 or 213. I think it may be 212. Or I don't remember which one it was, where Asta points out saying, "Oh, look, it's Captain Yami, the captain of the Blue Rose Knights, the former captain of the Purple Orcas, and the guy from the start of the series." Well, from long ago. I mean, it's my word change with him. It's like, it's Reverend. Yeah. Though they don't pop up again until. Yeah, they actually. Of course, they use hands of later. We'll get to that in a minute. So, they get outside. They undo the reincarnation. And of course, while everybody's helping out dealing with the aftermath of all this stuff, we see on top of a tower, we see Mimosa, Noel, Asta, and it's pointed out by to Lek before it disappears that, like, the one inside me is your child. He says, yep. And of course, before the first Wizard King disappears, like, I'll be joining Tula soon. Basically, his sister, basically, the first Wizard King's sister and the other guy's wife. Yep. And no one so far has told Mimosa that the first Wizard King's sister, that Mimosa is a spitting image of her. Yeah, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm glad fact me about the sentence. He starts disintegrating, and of course, though, Noel's like has no idea who the heck this guy is, and Asta's like, oh, that's the first Wizard King. And Olive's like, what? That's the first Wizard King? It's like, you mean the statue on top of that we mentioned, top of that demon skull? Of course, he doesn't know that's actually a skeleton of an elf. Yep. So, and of course, Sottery and the first Wizard King basically had their final goodbye, where she said she's very happy to basically serve them, and he agrees. He basically agrees with it. It's implied that she may have been in love with him when he was alive. It never goes any further than that. And he disintegrates, and that's that. And then we cut to some images basically teasing the next couple story arcs. Yeah, where it teases, believe it or not, the very next two story arcs where you see the tease for, like, you see the queen of the Heart Kingdom. You see her in this image, along with the main antagonist of the current arc of the series, and this little tease, and we see the Clover Kingdom's king and Seki there briefly, probably setting up basically the very next arc of the series. Yep, and then we have it where after the credits, basically, this is of course during the credits scene when the first Wizard King disintegrates, and then we have sort of a post-credit scene, not a Penny Clover moment, a post-credit scene. First time in the series, I think that they've done this, where this is actually from the end of chapter 214, where you have Yumi and Bonchance go to Julius's grave. Now, they actually do cut out one little panel from here. Basically, when we chops out Ball. And they open up the grave, and Julius is missing. Where is he? And then they say, and the Yami is like, that key is very familiar. They turn around to the light, and it's the current Wizard King. And he's a teenager. Yep, that's where the episode ends. By far, really good episode. Final thoughts on this particular... Well, as overall, this episode was done really well, and I love what they did with it. Final thoughts on this arc. For an arc, basically, that in the manga was 84 freaking chapters. Yes, 84. It's for almost 3 years. Actually, almost 2 years. Yeah, so basically this arc went on for, let's see, I think it was like 20, 30, I think it was like 37. Let's see, 10 is 94, 104 is 20, 114 is 30. Yeah, this went on for 37 episodes. The manga was 84 chapters, so it's a bit less, but they actually had a few episodes where they actually sort of did something quite interesting with it. Because they had some fights happen later, happen at the same time as this stuff, they decided to mix and match for them, basically, where they adapt, like, these 2 chapters from this portion of the arc, and this 2 chapters from this portion, and then slowly start catching up to where each other are. Yeah, and I gotta say, for a lot of people, the reception for this arc in the anime, from what I've heard, was actually pretty positive. Yes. Now, people have not much said anything about the previous arcs. People think the anime was terrible. But when it came to this arc, the arc that been building up since the third arc of the series, I gotta say, this arc was done really well. It is an awesome arc, and I highly recommend it if people are fans of Black Clover. But if you're going into Black Clover, start at the beginning, like the very first arc of the series, and go all the way through. Also, I should point out, though, they do have a cameo by Rebecca, who actually was not in the manga at this point in time. Yeah, her cameo was actually in the original, which is perfectly fine. Yep, we also see a brief cameo, another anime original. We see a cameo by Sister Lily and the village, in the Hodge village, the orphans there. Yep. And, well, that's pretty much it they had there, I can think of. Yep, now we'll move on to New Chat the Manga, which, by the way, this guy here, he did a brief tease, basically teasing in the next couple story arcs. So, it's possibly confirming that the previous story arc, which they have not officially named yet, and the current story arc will probably be adapted by Studio Parrot. Well, in the case next week, they're going to call it 3 Problems, though because the fact they had just finished adapting 84 chapters and 37 episodes. Here's kind of the interesting thing about this, because this chapter is 238. This is roughly 24 chapters after this episode basically finished up here. Now, my guess is, and this is just a theory, they might trim it down to just 1 chapter per episode, which I think is fine. I don't think that's much of a problem with anybody, because if they actually had done, if they did, let's say, or sometimes some anime adapt weekly manga do, where they adapt 2 chapters an episode, they might get to the current arc way too quickly. So my guess is they're probably trimming down from, because lately, throughout the last I would say the last 10 episodes of the current arc, they adapted 3 chapters an episode. Sometimes they adapted, in the case of last week's episode, they adapted 4 chapters. And here's also kind of more interesting about some of the chapters in the particular arc. Some of these chapters were really, really short. Some of them basically, because the usual length of this particular manga is about 15, 17 pages. Some chapters were just 11 pages. That's probably the reason why they adapt so much, so quickly. But despite the fact you might think, oh, they rushed this arc really quickly. Not really, no. They actually did a really good job with it, in my opinion. But now with New Chapter Manga, Zeno's Power. First we see the leader, I believe this is one of the leader of Dark Triad, who basically has William Vaughn just being held hostage. He says, you're Gyros. Yeah. Gyros and Frog got limited him. Figures only 40%. Hurry, cast Spirit Dive. That guy is very bad news. And this is Bell basically telling them that he's bad news. He's like, okay, fine. And then he just does it right there. Yeah. There's no space to evade. He tries to take him on. Sliced up at the bone. Still hasn't got the Vanches yet. Oh yeah, and it looks like though that his 2 teammates, basically Klaus and I don't remember. I think this is the guy basically was Joseph. They both got impaled. I don't think they're gonna kill him. She's like, you bastard. Yeah. Launches right at him. Of course, he blocks him. Stage 0. In that case, I'll show you a little of my devil's power. 55%. Where he forms like a giant demon, right behind him. You aren't weak. I'm simply far stronger. All for the benefit of the Spade Kingdom. And then we see, I think it's supposed to be Server riding on a broomstick, because of course this series basically is kicked with broomsticks. And then the chapter ends with looking like that was defeated and possibly killed. But yeah, he got basically stabbed in the frickin' heart. Yeah, and of course Bell is basically crying over him. I highly doubt that the writer of the series is going to kill off the secondary lead of the series right now. I don't think he's going to do that. No. I don't think this is going to be a permanent. I don't think this is going to be a death. I think it just be a death. I'm sure he's probably going to be healed up pretty quickly. Because I don't think he's going to allow him to die. Because is a great character. And it's great though the last several chapters we get a lot of development for the character. Which, from what I've read in an article, that basically has been lacking for most of the series because he's a character who has not gotten that much development, despite the fact he's the secondary protagonist of the series. Basically, he's the main character. He's a secondary main character. Well, he's basically like the number two important character of the series behind Asta, between Asta and Noelle. Yeah. But at least, unlike now, I know some people basically consider this series somewhat similar to that of Naruto, and that probably some people might consider them similar to Sasuke, Asta like Naruto, and Noelle like Sakura. Here's the interesting thing about this: despite the fact it's a similar trio per se, they're not on the same team. Only Noelle and Asta on the same team. Yuno's on a completely different team. So, it may have similar aspects to Naruto, but it's not a ripoff of Naruto. Yeah. Well, I'm glad the fact that we got a chance to develop for Yuno. In case you're wondering about this Yuno stone that was taken by the devil who was possessing that one elf. Yeah, he does get it back in the very next story arc. Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to explain how, but he does get it back in the very next arc of the series. So, if they do adapt the next arc with 14 chapters, I said they probably will wrap up this arc probably by episode 34. Well, 134 anyways. Yeah, because if you look at the previous arc, it feels like a lot of standalone chapters until you get to the very end. So, it makes perfect sense they would do this, along with probably adding a lot of stuff to it. I'm sure they probably would. Yeah. But I think the one portion people probably looking forward to seeing how the anime handles it is the brief portion Asha's nearly put on trial for causing everything that happened in the previous arc. I do think they get to that, but it won't happen for a little bit. Okay. Probably won't. I think it has about 2-3 chapters, and they basically go to they pretty much have an explanation of basically that there's basically next week's episode is going to be probably going to be just one chapter. Yeah. My guess is they're probably going to do one chapter for a while, because if they do try to do what they usually do, they're probably going to catch up with the current manga really quickly, and they're probably going to have to throw in a filler episode here or there. It's possible. Yeah. So, that's it for this particular review, and that's the last review I'm going to do today. Tomorrow, basically expect reviews for 7 Daily Cents and Trigun. Probably 2 reviews of Trigun. It's possible. Yeah, expect probably about 3 videos for tomorrow. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.